Intuitively, about half the people in this room are smarter than the other half. But what if I told you 80% of you felt like you were smarter than the other half? It'd be kind of counterintuitive, right? I often find it amusing in conversation, anecdotal conversation, to ask someone if they consider themselves more intelligent than the average person. And usually everyone asks tends to think they are, which is fine. You know, it's good to have a good self-esteem thing. But in general, I always think that, okay, sorry, I'm going to retrace that. But in general, I always see that, I wonder, like after talking to people, I wonder like, well, if everyone thinks they're above average, who's below average? And after consulting several sources, such as the European Review of Social Psychology and an article published by Life Science, I found in actuality, many people will often view themselves as above average. Now, interestingly enough, everyone who did take my survey, which wasn't too many people, but that's okay, they all consider themselves as above average. They all thought they were smarter than the average person, which is fine. But, this introspection that people generally have is influenced by a cognitive bias, which is referred to as illusory superiority. My hope is, my hope is that you'll be able to define the term illusory superiority and distinguish its correlation with certain individuals. Now, to accomplish relative understanding in the time that I've been given, I'll just go with the definition and identify the correlations with certain individuals. Now, some of you might have already picked up on the definition of illusory superiority, or the illusion of feeling superior. But the textbook definition, I don't know if I have it written on there, but is a cognitive bias that influences people to overestimate their positive characteristics. Now, in an academic journal by Vera Gurins titled Self-Enhancement and Superiority Biases in Social Comparison, characteristics such as someone's intellect or athletic ability, or even their driving ability, can be influenced by illusory superiority. Now, I actually have a friend who is, he considers himself a good driver, which is good for him, I mean. But I'm kind of afraid to be in the car with him. And when I am in the car with him, it's always a bit dangerous. I consider him a reckless driver. He considers himself a good driver. I think he's totaled 2 cars so far, but that's fine. I think he should have his license revoked in general. But that's off a little bit on tangent. But either way, I think that's a good example of illusory superiority. I'm sure if you guys ask any of your friends or a peer if they consider themselves good drivers, maybe even asking all of you if you consider yourself good drivers, I'm sure a lot of you would be inclined to say, yeah, I think I'm a good driver. Like, who is it? You know, but there's so many bad drivers. You hear that often. A lot of people say there's a lot of bad drivers. I never hear anyone owning up to it. And I think that's a great example of illusory superiority in that context. Chris Lee, though, who is an author who wrote in 2012 an article revisiting why incompetents think they're awesome. A bit of a satirical title there. He details how Dunning and Kruger, which were professors of Cornell University, they're actually pretty famous in general in the psychology circle. I mean, even before looking up this topic, I have heard of them. They reviewed, they explained how an incompetent person generally will overestimate their positive qualities or positive skills relative to that skill. So they'll think they're really good at something they're not, basically. And in another way, they'll fail to recognize the genuine ability in other people. So it's funny because it's kind of like the person you all can picture him who's really bad at something, but he thinks he's really good, and then he accuses other people of being bad themselves. It's very relatable, I think, in general. So those two things being true, they will be able to recognize their incompetence after being introduced to it in formal training session. So maybe someone who's shown that they are incompetent, maybe like in speech, for example, someone might think they're really good at speech, and then you'll be able to realize that you weren't maybe too good at speech after going over all the key characteristics that professor has shown us. So that's what the Dunning-Kruger explained as an incompetent person's propensity to kind of explain these things. So what's interesting about this phenomenon is its correlation with individuals who often experience this type of bias. Now, illusory superiority applies to societal discourse in different ways, and often influences us to judge ourselves, especially, in an accurate manner. In an article written by Kia Ghost in Life Science, titled Why We're All Above Average, people with depression often have a more realistic perspective of themselves. They often think that they kind of, if you can picture yourself in a down moment, a sad moment in your life, a lot of times when you get to that moment, you have like a somber kind of realization that, you start to look at your pieces more realistically, and in a way it helps you improve yourself. And in the article it actually continues how happy or self-confident people, they have the kind of an inverse feeling. They have a feeling that they themselves can be happy, that they themselves can be good at even characteristics that they're not necessarily good at. They'll be overconfident, and they won't realize the implications that holds behind their actual positive characteristics. Now, ultimately, when we assess an individual's performance, we tend to overestimate our own. So, because I know I went on kind of a rant, maybe you guys didn't follow, because I didn't have an A, fortunately, but we went over how illusory superiority grapples our own perception of ourselves. It is interwoven within societal discourse, and it fosters its illusion within individuals in our society. A phenomenon is instilled within each and every one of us, and it cripples our ability to truly assess our own individual performance. The ability to acknowledge illusory superiority and continue to function with healthy introspection is tantamount to understanding ourselves. So, thank you for listening.